Hi, and welcome to this 4NAV coffee break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at 4NAV, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today, we're going to use multiple bank accounts in your Business Central reports. The tricky thing about using multiple bank accounts is that you can set up more than one bank account with the same currency in Business Central. The hard part then is not getting the bank account data from Business Central, but getting the right bank account. With 4NAV, there are a few ways to set this up. You can code the logic in JavaScript in 4NAV, you can use existing fields on a table to make your own setup, or you can create your own per tenant extension for this setup. We will demonstrate the first two options. That will also give you some hints on how to create and use a per tenant extension. To demonstrate using multiple bank accounts, I'm going to use these steps. Prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will set up the bank account record. In step 3, I will get the bank account with JavaScript. In step 4, I will get the bank account with a setup table. Let's start with the first step. Today, I will be using multiple bank accounts in a Business Central on-premise server with a Business Central 2022 Wave 1 release. I have installed the 4NAV customizable report pack and have executed the step-by-step wizard from the assisted setup to get started. Of course, everything I do today is also available on the Business Central SaaS environment. I also have the 4NAV Designer installed on my PC. The 4NAV Designer can be downloaded from the 4NAV website. In order to display bank account data from Business Central, the first thing we need to do is add a bank account record to our report layout. So I will switch over to Business Central. And I will find my sales template. And I'm going to add the bank account to my sales template. Once I've got it added to my sales template and I've created all of the logic to get the bank accounts, we will inherit all of this stuff on the invoice reports and order reports, etc. But first thing we need to do is find our records property. Then the records property, I can go and find the bank account, which is table 270. And all I need to do is set up the bank account. I don't need to specify a link reference and a link, because the first step we are going to do is getting the bank account with JavaScript, which means the link will be laid by JavaScript and not by the link reference. Click OK, and that will get me the bank account in my dataset, which means that in the report footer, I can find my footer properties and replace my IBAN and SWIFT code in the footer properties from the company information to the bank account. Which is a simple copy-paste job. There we go. That switched it over to the new bank account record. Hit OK and save my report, and I'm ready for the next step. Now we have added our bank account table, we can write some logic to get the correct bank account. So back to our 4NAV report. And in the 4NAV report, I'm going to create this logic in two steps. I'm going to create a function in JavaScript to get the bank account, and then of course I need to call that function and display the bank account somewhere in the report. Functions in JavaScript we usually place in the onPre report. I'm going to type really quickly. There we go. So what I've created is a function that returns a function, which is a JavaScript technique which is useful in cases like this. The most important part of this function is right here. We have a switch statement based on the currency, so we pass the currency of the header into our function, and this switch statement, in case the currency is euro, it does a simple bank account.get on WWB euro. In case of US dollar, it does a bank account.get on WWB US dollar, and in the default case I'm getting the bank account NBL. And this corresponds of course to the bank accounts we've got in Business Central. If I look at the bank accounts in Business Central, you will see I've got NBL, New Bank of London, which I've decided to use as a default. I've got my Euro bank account, and I've got my US dollar bank account. It's just a standard Business Central Corona setup. So that gets the bank account. Then this function has a couple of other things. It's got a variable inside the function scope with the bank, and I use that variable. You will see if once I've got the bank account, I will assign the currency code from the bank account to this variable, and I will use that variable to check if my bank is already in my memory. And if it is in memory, I'm not going to get it again. That just speeds up performance a little bit. So the important part of this function is this, and everything around it is just for performance purposes. So this function will get me the bank account based on the currency. So once I've created it, I can add some fields to my header. I will start by adding the currency code to my header, and that's just for demo purposes so we can see what currency we're working on. And then I'm grabbing an empty text box in my header, and in that empty text box I'm going to do the function call to our new get bank account function. So I'm going to say in get bank account, and I'm going to call it with the header dot currency code. So that gets the bank account as a global variable. You will have noticed in this function it will return true if it gets a bank account. So I can say if true, I'm going to use bank account dot name, and if false, I'm going to say no bank found. So if I can get the bank account, I'm going to use bank account.name. Bank account is a global variable in my report. It's a record variable. And if it cannot be found, I'm going to display the text no bank found. I will hit OK, make this field purple as well. And we will preview to see if everything works. Now, in preparation for this webinar, I have created and posted 2 sales invoices. One of them I have posted on the local currency, which in my case is Great British Pounds. I'm in a W1 Kronas database. So let's use a local currency invoice first. Preview and close. You will notice that the currency field is empty, because in local currency the currency field is always empty, which means it defaults to the new Bank of London. And it also means that in my report footer, my IBAN is the IBAN from the new Bank of London. If I preview my report with the second invoice I posted, that invoice is posted in euros. If I preview this one, you will notice that the currency is euro, and the bank account that is selected is the Worldwide Bank Euro, which is exactly what we set up in JavaScript. And in the footer, we've got the IBAN from the bank account in euros. So that's the first step we need to set up. The second step is if we go back to Business Central, we now have a custom layout for the sales template. So the sales template has been changed, but if I now run this report with the invoice, you will notice that my fields are still empty. I don't get any errors because those are suppressed in a template, but I don't get the bank account either. And that's because by default in 4nav, any JavaScript we place on the on-pre report JavaScript of a template is not inherited. So if I want this to work in my invoice, I'm going to need to edit my invoice report. You will notice that my currency code have been inherited from the template, and I will find my on-pre report master report, where I'm going to find my sales template, which I've got right here. And beware, if you're in North America, please use the sales template sales tax, which is created for sales tax reports in Europe and other parts of the world. We use the 4NAV sales template, which is a VAT report. So I'm going to inherit from 4NAV sales template, hit OK, and if I preview my report, you will notice that on the first report now I've got New Bank of London, and on the second report I've got the Worldwide Bank Euro bank account. So all we need to do if we get the bank account with JavaScript is make sure we inherit the JavaScript in the OMPRE report, which incidentally is why I always write JavaScript functions in the OMPRE report, so I can inherit them. I don't need to inherit any records. 4NAV will create those automatically. So let's close this. I'm not going to save it. Close this one as well and move on to the final step. Finally, we can use the 4NAV file storage table or any similar table in your extension to set up our bank account per currency. And what we're going to do now is basically use a setup inside Business Central to set up a relation between the currency and the bank accounts. So I've used a 4NAV file storage table for this. And if I find the file storage table, you will notice I've set up two records. First one is an empty code, type is BA, and the description is MBL. And you will notice that the empty code, of course, is for the local currency, which is always empty. And the description MBL is the default bank account that we used earlier. Then we've got code EUR for Euro, type BA, and description is WWB EUR. And that's, of course, there we place the link between the currency Euro and the bank account WWB Euro. So that's a very simple setup, and you can create your own setup table to do this. This is just for demo purposes. Then, of course, we are going to set this up in our sales template. So I'm going to open my sales template again. I'm going to leave the bank account I created earlier. No problem there. This will work side by side. And for now, I don't need to create any JavaScript, but I do need to create some record links. So I'm going to add first the 4NAV file storage table. You can just type the table name if you know it. The link reference is going to be the header table, because I want to use a field from the header to create a link to my 4NAV file storage table. And the link I'm going to set up, I'm going to link the code field in the 4NAV file storage field. You may recall that we placed the currency there. We will link that to the currency code in the header. And all that this does is it will get the first record in the file storage table where the code field equals the currency code on our invoice header. And then, of course, if we've got a lot of records in the file storage table, I need to place a filter on type, which you may recall I have set up as BA for bank account. So that's the first step I need to do. I need to get the 4NAV file storage record based on my currency. And then from the 4NAV file storage record, I can get the bank account because I've placed my bank account code on the 4NAV file storage. So I'm going to add another record to the bank account. The link reference here is going to be the 4NAV file storage because I want to get the bank account from the 4NAV file storage. And the link is going to be, the bank account number is going to be the description from the 4NAV file storage field. I will hit OK and OK. You will notice, by the way, that 4NAV automatically names this bank account 2, and that's because I've already got a bank account set up in my records. So I can use the same record multiple times in 4NAV. Just need to make sure it's got a unique name. So I've got bank account 2 in my field list. I can find the name, drag it into my report. Now let's make this orange. and preview the report. So once again, start with our invoice in local currency. That now gets the new Bank of London as I set up in the ForNav file storage table. And if I preview again, with my euro invoice, again I get the Worldwide Bank Euro, which is specified as my euro bank account. So that's all set up for the sales template. How does this work in the invoice, order and other sales reports? In this case, I don't need to do anything. You may recall I didn't save my setup earlier, but I can run my invoice report. I will run it for the 2 demo invoices I've created. You will notice on the first invoice the JavaScript bank account doesn't work. Again, I didn't save that setup, but my record collection bank account now works. I didn't need to set up anything in my other reports. For the euro bank account, it gets the Worldwide Bank Euro. So that's 2 ways of setting up bank accounts in, or getting bank accounts in ForNav, where of course these are not the only 2 ways. You can use a per tenant extension and create your own setup, really. So let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was to add a bank account record to our sales template layout. Once we had that, we could write a script that gets the correct bank account based on our invoice currency. We set up the sales invoice to inherit the on-pre-report JavaScript from our sales template report. Finally, we used the ForNav file storage table to set up the bank account per currency. A per tenant extension is to set up a bank account per currency can work in the same way with the same sort of setup in the ForNav layouts. Thank you very much for listening to me so far. We don't have any questions right now, so I will wrap up this coffee break. If you want to know more about ForNav, or if you want to download the ForNav Designer and Converter, please visit our website. If you want to install ForNav in Business Central Cloud, please visit the Microsoft App Source. And you can watch more videos about ForNav on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions about ForNav, please email them to support@fornav.com. For a full list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, please visit fornav.com/coffeebreak. For now, thank you very much for listening and goodbye.